Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to episode 94 of the Daily BLP. I'm your host, Bran Collins. Thank you so much for deciding to check us out today. We know you have a lot of options for places to be, to go, things to watch. Glad you chose to take a little bit of time and hang with us. So, what's today? Today's Thursday, December 11th. Time is just tracking on and on and on, but been a nice little day. As you can see, for the second time this week, I'm in a tie. I don't necessarily enjoy being in a tie, but I am. That means I probably had to meet with somebody, and it was probably the first time meeting. Because most of the time, after the first couple meetings and we get a new client or something like that, it's no more time. Don't really have to get in ties around them. And, there's a couple clients when I get spruced up. But had a discovery meeting today that was booked by our buddies over at Arsenal Business Growth. Our caller, Ross Sifford, locked this in, I think, about a week or two ago. And it was a good one. We had talked at the beginning of the month how we wanted to kind of tighten up qualifications for meetings, and we're getting some good ones. He booked another one today that I'll be going on next week. So, that one's going to be a Zoom meeting, and it's okay. It's a larger opportunity, but it's going to be with the IT director. They apparently do kind of a hybrid approach. So they do work with the MSP, but I don't have any pain points. I don't have any reasons yet that they're looking. So I haven't listened to the phone call yet. I looked at Ross's notes. They seem pretty good, but that's the one hang up. That's probably like the biggest factor, right? Is there a need? But we'll see. But this one that I went on today, fantastic. About a 20 user network. Those of you guys who don't do what we do, don't even care. What that means is they've got either 20 users or 20 computers. In this case, 20 computers. Probably less users because some users have multiple computers. But every computer is a liability that's got to be supported and kept up and secured and all that fun stuff. That's where the cost comes in. So one server in the cloud, and they've got a bunch of cameras. They're a manufacturing plant, so they've got cameras everywhere to make sure nobody people get hurt, they get it, and they can make sure and find out what happened to stop it from happening again. Anyway, nice little company, relatively young company, but I met with four of the decision makers on their leadership team, and it was great. The owner, controller, a couple of the other guys. What a great group of guys to meet with. They are a little, of lack of a better way to explain it, fed up with their current support. This is their second MSP, not including us. They're only about a 3-year-old company. 2 MSPs in the last 3 years, and neither of them have worked out great. This most recent one even less so. And Ross, found that needle in the haystack. Surprised after I sat down with them and heard their story that they weren't out there looking, making calls, trying to find other MSPs. But I think they're kind of scratching their heads like, is this going to work for us, to pay somebody to do our IT? So anyway, met with them. They just laid it all on the table. Here's what's happening. We'll give you everything. We'll show you the invoices. We'll show you the tickets. We'll show you whatever. We need somebody who can actually get the job done and not, charge us through the teeth for every little thing. So it was a really good meeting. Had to drive about a little over an hour to get, because I came from home and I'm further away. But from the office, it's less than an hour to get there. But yeah, lessons learned today. Don't go into discovery meetings, whether you're in my kind of business, but B2B in general. Don't, go in organized with your discovery questionnaire, right? One of the things that does, whether you use it or not, is that shows the person that you meet with that you mean business, that you're organized. Another thing, make yourself look nice. If it's an industry where you don't, have to be clean and tidy, at least, comb your hair and brush your teeth and stuff. But anyway, have evidence with you that you have a process. One of the things that a lot of people do that I don't do, I don't bring like brochures and folders and all that stuff, because when I meet with people and they give that stuff to me, it either clutters my desk, clutters somebody else's desk, or goes right in the garbage. Like when I'm looking up stuff about people, I'm going to their website, email it to me, and, because I don't need all that stuff. And it's an expense. that I don't really want to spend. So I think we can do a good enough job without having to do that. So I generally don't do that. It's funny, even when my business partners go with me to meetings sometimes. We just had a meeting like last week with an old client at a former company, and he's like, "Did you bring a folder or some brochures?" I'm like, "No, we know this person. He doesn't need a brochure about our IT services. He's been running a company for 20 years. He knows everything that we're going to talk about. We're going to get right down to business right away and see what happens." So sometimes you get stuck in that mold of it, you use those things as a security blanket. And speaking of that, don't let your discovery meeting questionnaire, have something like that. But don't let it be your security blanket. Of course, people call me when I'm online. Okay. So have it ready, leverage it, but don't be afraid to go off of it. Come back to it, kind of check mark the things you need to get done on it. But that's one of the things that you got to make sure and try to have an actual conversation and dialogue with the people that you're meeting with for the first time. Because what I've learned and what I was taught is that it helps you make a friend, right? So when you're stuck to paperwork, or if it's on a tablet or something, you keep mine on a tablet, and you're just blah, 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 next question, blah, 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 okay, next question, blah, 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 okay, next question, blah, 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 okay, next question. All you're doing is interviewing them, interrogating them, and you get to the bottom and you're like, "Oh, that's all I've got. Well, thank you very much." You do what you do next, right? Try not to do that. That is think of that as like your home base that keeps you safe. If you kind of get lost, go back to home base. Find, okay, this is where I was, and then go back. Because what you want to happen is you want to have a real conversation with people that you can ask a question, and then you can follow up the question and follow up. Because what you're really looking for, like when I ask a question, I'm going to ask the technical type, how many computers you have, what you're doing with this, what do you have there, who are you using? But based on their answer, based on the vibe I'm getting back in their answer, because the words are one thing, right? Their voice quality and their body language is something else, right? Like the simplest of questions. Okay, how many computers do you guys have at the office? Well, I guess we have about 12. And if someone's like that, I know that they're not quite sure. And I might want to dig into that a little bit. Oh, really? What do you mean by about 12? Well, we've got 10 that people are using in the admin offices, and we've got 2 on the machines out in the shop. No, yeah, I forgot about the one at the shipping station. So that would be 13. And right, so that simple follow-up question based on the way he talked to me, gave me the answer, got me more information that I needed, which is important. And you can do that with anything. You can have them, one of the things I often do in a discovery meeting is a lot of the times what, the prospects try to do, we sit down and they're like, "Okay, great. Thanks for coming out. Tell me about your company." Right. And I'll say, I'd love to, but first, can I ask you a couple questions? Because my objection in the discovery meeting is not to, tell them all the awesome things about our company. My objective is to find out everything that I need to know about their company, right? In order to decide quickly whether taking the next step is a good option. Okay. So when I ask something like that, I reverse quickly. Whenever they try asking me questions, until I have everything I need, I give a little nibble. I will affirm their question, not always answer it, and then I'll reverse back on that. Because what happens is if we get into the of dumping and vomiting everything about us, what it does is give the other person an opportunity right there at the table, first meeting, to decide if they want what you have or not. As opposed to giving them the opportunity to tell their story and you to learn their problem, right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand how to make them the hero, how we can position ourselves as the guide that's going to train the hero to win the day, right? All right. So don't be stuck to your script. Turn it into a conversation by asking your question and follow-up questions until you have the real information you need. Okay. So that's one of my biggest advices in that, because a lot of times what'll happen too, and this happens to me, um, if I'm off a little bit, but it tends to be okay as long as I don't forget about everything that happens and I quickly go back and write the notes down when I'm in my truck or when I get back to the office. Is a lot of the times we'll get to a meeting and I will have put nothing but like their name, my name, and the date on, and maybe the first couple things on the Discover Meeting questionnaire. And I've got to like seriously focus, which if you've watched a lot of my episodes, or maybe even a couple, it's hard for me to do. I tend to weave and sometimes get back on point. So, but when I'm weaving with a customer, there's a purpose to it. I'm trying to dig in, and it leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I've done this for long enough, and it doesn't take that long. It just takes a volume of doing it. The more you can do more often, the quicker you get good at it. Is having that discovery meeting, having that conversation, and everything that you need to know that's on the questionnaire is going to come out naturally in the conversation, right? What's a way that tends to happen? Tell me your story. I'll ask that, or I'll say, after kind of the first rapport kind of thing, rapport, try to make that happen naturally. Don't just look around and start pointing out things on the wall and making it super obvious that you noticed they had whatever team on the wall or whatever, right? But after that phase, but leave a little pause. It's okay to pause and then say, thanks. I really appreciate you giving me your time, but tell me, why are we sitting here right now? Usually when someone gives me the opportunity to come and meet with them, there's something going on, something that needs to be addressed. So tell me, what's happening with you guys? What's your story when it comes to your technology for the company and your IT? And then I listen and I write notes, or sometimes I'm recording, whatever. And then I listen for cues or pauses in theirs. And then I'll dig deeper when they'll tell me something, and I'll be like, listen with intent. Don't just, slap them or nod, slap them, right? So listen with intent. Listen for the cues that require your interaction, whether that's a whoa or whether that's a, some sort of body language that tells them you can't believe what they just told you happened to them, right? All that's going to do is start to build some trust and some comfort and show them that you're relatable and that you're a human being, not just the salesperson from the company who's the enemy trying to get their money. Okay. So these are all things that happened today. I mean, I did very little talking. I did some reacting and some commenting based on information shared. Today was a rare bird, a good rare bird. And I came around and said it. I said, because they were like, hey, we're just going to lay everything out of the table. We're not going to hold our cards close to our chest. We're going to show you our hand. You show us yours. Fair enough? Like, yeah, because I truly believe that when you get into that, hold your cards close, they hold their cards close, all that does is slow down the process and build some distrust. So they're like, here it is. This is our experience. This is what's going on. Here's how much we're paying every month. It's ridiculous. Tell us, are we wrong for feeling that this is way too much? I mean, they were telling me like in the last quarter, this is a small, 20 computer manufacturing company, upwards of $20K on IT expenses. And they're not buying a bunch of equipment. They might've bought like one laptop. But they got out of a managed service agreement that was going on for about 2.5 years. They got into this most recent relationship, which is just time and materials and like a very small, doesn't cover much type of service agreement. And they, they're not happy because they are getting nickel. They're getting like 20 and 100 abused, because it's like every quarter of an hour that someone's doing something. I think if someone says their name at this IT company, they're making it billable. So they're not happy. So they're looking for some more. I think they got out of a predictable predicament with their first, but they felt like they were paying too much. So they approached this other one and said, hey, we think we're paying too much. Can we get into a as needed basis with you? And they're like, fine. Got to do these kind of stuff, minimum, $800 a month just to take care of the general stuff. This is going to be a fixed cost for your Microsoft licensing and your software. And everything else will just, you call us or you put in a ticket. We'll just bill you hourly. It's $150 an hour, whatever. Shouldn't be much. Well, it's been much. And a lot of the times when those situation happens, on one side of the spectrum, if you're super honest, they're just having a lot of problems. You're getting paid because you're dealing with the problems. But there's nothing, the front end of their agreement is their little managed service thing where they're doing some, managed services type of things that are supposed to be the things that quiet the network problems down. I'm not saying they're not doing that, but those things aren't quieting the network. They're still having lots of problems, having to spend a lot of time. And they're thinking, yay, cha-ching. And the client's thinking, we can't budget for this. We can't decide. We have no idea what we're going to spend next month. It could be less. It could be way more. I mean, some months have been triple than previous months just due to, tickets being worked. So they're not happy about that. They feel like they're kind of getting fleeced. So that's where we are. We've got clients that we only do time and materials for, but we're very careful about, it's a balance of having a really good relationship with the person we report to at the client. So she, in this case, has trust that we're not going to waste time. And then we're not going to, work on a ticket for 2 hours that after 15 minutes we know is probably futile. You know what I mean? And then just bill them for it. Say, hey, we weren't working on it. I can't figure it out. Right? So it's just adding up. And so for example, a company that's probably 3 times their size, the people I met with today, a company 3 times their size that we do nothing but time and materials for. We spend maybe 12 hours a month working on them. Right? So compared to, 20, 30, 40 hours, for this other one. So not saying that we're all, we're the whatever. I am kind of tooting our horn a little bit, but I think we can do a better job. I think they want to get back to a managed service deal, but they want it to be a better price, which I think we'll do fine and be 70%. We'll have 70% labor loaded gross margin on it. So that's usually my goal. So that'll be fun. So just anytime I can get on here and talk about a discovery meeting, that's one of the reasons I wanted to start doing this podcast, is talk about my experiences and share what I learn, mistakes I make, and hopefully somebody or some random people or people that are subscribed. If you are, thanks. If you're not, do it. But some of the people listening, and you're thinking like, how do I do this thing? I want to start my own business, but I have no idea how to conduct myself in a meeting, or how to close a deal, so that's why I share those things. I wish I was that busy every day and I could give you some stuff to ponder daily, and we'll get there. But at this point, this is today's, and there's at least one more next week, and they'll start growing because now that we're getting settled and things are getting back to normal from a infrastructure standpoint, we're going to start spending more on our sales pipeline and stuff. So anyway, that's that. What's going on in the world, the business world today? Got a couple stories that ran across my feed today, one of which looks like Oracle, their stock dropped 15% after some, not so great earnings recently. It says here that their quarterly earnings came in below expectations, triggering a 15% stock drop. That wiped out roughly $80 billion in market value. 15% of their value is $80 billion. That's a valuable company. That's a big deal. It's so funny because I've played in the business game for the last 15 years, never run into anybody that uses Oracle because the Oracle's more enterprise kind of stuff. So I don't know jack diddly squat about all the things they're doing. But apparently it's because they're investing heavily in AI data centers. So their investors must not be super excited about that. It might be kind of a thing where the markets are starting to at least slow their roll a little bit on how much is getting invested in AI. So that'll be something to watch. That'll be something to watch. Maybe it goes down a little bit. They catch a clue, get a little bit smarter with what they're doing. Someone can buy stock low, they pop back up and you make some money. But I just think it's fascinating how in less than a day, in like that, $80 billion can disappear. Does that not blow your mind? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, when you think about the lives that people live, or the world, we all live in the same world, but there's different veils behind different levels of the world. People who live on the, in this level, day up, day down, day up, day down, in and out, $80 billion can be created in the blink of an eye and then disappear. And you, listener, me, other people I know that live in this world that I live in, well, I'm not saying that I could never make that much money. I don't necessarily plan to make that much money, but the great, massive majority of people can't even fathom what $80 billion would look like. So I find that, just the thought of that, fascinating. So anyway, what else do we got here? Kremlin signals openness to foreign investment. Interesting. The Kremlin, that's in Russia, for folks who don't know. Jen, my wife. The Kremlin is in Russia. I love you, by the way. Anyway, publicly expressed interest in foreign investment following reports that U.S. peace proposals for Ukraine include large-scale investment in Russian energy and rare earth sectors. Yeah. So it even though all this other junk that they're engaged in with Ukraine and everything is not getting them on anybody's friends list or Christmas card list, we're definitely not sending them a Kringle from Uncle Mike's this year. You're not going to find one from Panacea at the Kremlin, but it is kind of a sign that maybe there's some willingness to re-engage globally. So I don't know. I don't know who wants to do business with them. There's always somebody on the other side that wants to do business with the bad guys. Time Person of the Year. It shows the AI architects. Time Magazine has named the architects of AI as the 2025 Person of the Year, highlighting leaders such as NVIDIA CEO and others shaping the future of artificial intelligence. This reflects AI's unprecedented impact on global economics. Okay, that's a cop-out. That's like asking someone for their favorite movie and them giving you 10 movies. Like, no, pick one. Pick one. And here's the other thing. It's not like AI was created this year. Are you telling me there's not someone out there who did something so awesome, helped so many people, or did something so great as to further the greatness of humanity, that Time Magazine couldn't pick them? I don't know. I think that's a lazy pick. We probably did a lot of work, interviewed a lot of people, did a lot of research, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a lazy pick. That's just me. All right, moving on. We're getting close to the end here, guys. Thursday night football tonight. Thursdays, we usually cover a little Thursday night football. Tonight's matchup is the Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Game starts tonight, 8:15 Eastern, 7:15 Central. You can find it on Prime Video. I think you can also get it somewhere else. NFL, probably. NFL Network, if you've got their NFL package. It's a home game for the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are currently 7-6. The Falcons are limping into the game at, I think, what are they, like 4-9? So they're eliminated. They're not going to the postseason. And, the Bucs aren't playing that great either. They're kind of backsliding right now, too. I think they've lost, 4 of their last 5 games, which is not a great look to have this time of year. But plenty of time to turn around and still make it in. But they've got Carolina knocking on their door for the division. So the division is tightening up here at the end of the season. I'm just going to take the favorite here, Buccaneers. But I think it might be it's a 4.5 point spread right now. But I'm going to take the Bucks, but I think it'll be, division matchups are usually pretty tough. So, like, for instance, the Buccaneers just lost to the current bottom feeder of the division, the Saints. So I always say any given Sunday, but the games don't always happen on Sunday anymore. But any given Thursday, the team with the worst record could come on top. So could be a fun matchup to watch. It's not, get your popcorn ready kind of thing, not huge implications, win-loss, but it could drop, with a loss in the Buccaneers and a win for the Panthers this weekend. We could have a new division leader for the South, NFC South. So going with the Buccaneers, but it's not, like I said, it's not like must see TV unless you're just a big, a drool for football kind of get me some NFL fix on Thursday. So that's it though. What time we got here? Boom, 4:31, right on time. Great. All right, so let's close this thing out, everybody. We're gonna end episode 94 here of the Daily BLP. Thanks for joining us. Had a good time sharing. We will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody.